Per usual, living on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It is Wednesday. Let's take a look at some alts. And if you want me to look at specific alts, just let me know in the comments. At the end of the, well, I guess the middle half of the video, I'll be looking at alts on Kraken by volume. So that'll pick up some coins I've never looked at on this channel. But my general outlook is going to be, I'm expecting weakness everywhere. Does anything look bad enough to buy? Because I'm certainly expecting further weakness broadly in alts specifically. Some uplift today on potentially dollar exhaustion, some BRICS nonsense, and maybe some people who are just bored and buying the dip. I don't know. Dominance wise, we're still kind of at 50 in the middle of the road. TradingView has been changing the data set for this, so it's a little less valuable than it had been. In any event, I don't think alts are shining brightly just yet. If we look at the market cap of alts minus Tether, minus USDC, minus wrapped Bitcoin, we have still a potential picture for an inverted head and shoulders, but this isn't some sort of long trigger for me, bullish trigger for me. It's just we're waiting and seeing. I'm watching this, right? This isn't to say like I'm 100% sure this is going to get bullish. I'm actually turbo bearish alts. I expect this to fail. I expect this to break down. That's my default position here. A failure in this would look like ultimately a new lower low in market cap, Goblin Town, as it were. There's also evidence for another diagonal resistance line that's showed up recently on the index. Let's say it's certainly been there on many alts, Solana, AVAX, DOT, etc. But if this market cap measure can get above that diagonal resistance, that would be one of the first bullish signs for alts, right? But again, not necessarily, at least for me. I don't like trading ranges per se. Maybe some people do. But if we're over that diag, that'd be one of the first signs of some sort of bullishness and potentially an eventual completion of the pattern, right? But we're super, super early. Maybe this thing just zeroes out until Bitcoin halving, because at the end of the day, Bitcoin halving is bullish for everything historically, including alts. Maybe not so much on the BTC pair, but it does tend to bring attention, eyeballs, eventual rotation trades, flows back into crypto based on, the news cycle, let's say. We continue to see just a very unhappy stablecoin picture. Tether still dominating. USDC slowly draining. Added a new horizontal to this with the curve exploit. The curve stuff's sort of behind us-ish. I'll look at curve today. I think it's near 40 cents, or at least it was yesterday. The Tether price has corrected itself. We've been seeing a lot of headlines out of China with shadow banks and real estate and blah, blah, blah going on there. And I'm sort of wondering, maybe this Binance stuff was a red herring and maybe there's some sort of Chinese shadow bank that was cashing out of Tether. I don't know. That's a wild conspiracy theory, but it's more likely than not that an exchange, potentially Binance, couldn't exit Tether because Tether said no because of legal reasons, potentially, right? That's the running theory. And then they had this roundabout way of getting out of Tether into USD through USDC. Anyway, that seems to be done in the moment, but the issues at Binance remain. I'll look at BNB as well. Before we talk about alts, let's look at the watch index and NFTs for a second, because I feel like there's a big overlap between the people who were buying watches and buying NFTs. So in the index, over the past year, down 16%, continues to decline. If we go to the 5-year, it's still not back to basically the inception of the index, stimmies, that sort of thing. We're almost there. And again, for alts, some of them are there and then some of them still holding out in the early 2022 days. But I like to take in a bunch of data points, and this is certainly one of them. I imagine there's a ton of overlap between people here who are underwater on some sort of speculative investment in watches and on NFTs. We've got NFTs down so bad that people are suing that they turned out to be a bad investment, which I laugh, but there may be some grounds this case if they can prove that there was some sort of wash trading by FTX or celebrities or blah 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 blah. I don't know, but as they say, rooted in deception. I doubt it goes anywhere. But it's just interesting that that's how down bad NFTs are. And if we look at Bored Apes versus CryptoPunks, for example, or whoever else, right? They're all down 80% plus. Bored Apes down, I think, 89%, 90% from all-time high in USD terms. And it's bad when they're losing in both ETH and ETH is down, obviously, so they're down in USD. At least punks are holding somewhat at 47 ETH, but Bored Apes not so much. And I think this is a good measure to watch for just liquidity, sell pressure potentially being unlocked. Not so much on the NFT side, but on the ETH side. If there's concern from holders on USD prices, they may continue to liquidate and provide additional sell pressure. We can look at the USD prices. This is punks, essentially back to the beginning inception of this index, and Bored Apes down, same, back to the beginning, August 2021. Tons of volume down here. A lot of this was probably blur. A lot of this, admittedly, probably wash trading type stuff being measured here. But if you're looking for weakness, if you're looking for capitulation, I always want to see just angry volume, throwing your hands up in the air, people giving up, right? You want to see that volume spike. And arguably for ETH, we really haven't seen that yet. I'll get to the volume in a second, but we're still seeing inflows on the staking side. If we look at the day over day graph, tons of deposits still. So everyone still thinks they can stake and get rich, bro, which is fine. I would just be more confident in price going higher if this gets stressed. I want to see people realize that, hey, this maybe not be a free lunch because everyone's so convinced, right, this is going to infinity, which long term, I like 10K for ETH, but I would love to see this staking stack get stressed a little bit first. Maybe I'm an evil person for that, but generally there's no free lunches in trading. So still seeing a ton of flows into staking. The wait time for validators is still 23 days. And this is another dynamic potentially to watch. If the exit queue exceeds the entry queue, then we might get towards the capitulation part, right? If we do get lower lows on ETH, if we see prices get angry into the 3 digits, right? Then we may see these stake folks finally have a realization that things may not be okay. Now, you could argue on the other side that, look, the people that are staking, they are diehard. They don't care about price. They're holding forever. That's fine. I believe that too, but this is just a metric to watch. If inflows slow down significantly, if the exit queue picks up, right, those are things that I'm very interested in seeing relative to price. We've also got, this gorilla in the room that Lido continues to have insane market share, but nobody seems to really care too much about that. This was the multi-month, year-plus ascending triangle that, in my eyes anyway, was a no doubt about it pattern. Still potentially is on the table. The bigger problem in the near term was this, triple top sort of curvature, head and shoulders type pattern that we saw with really no excitement, nothing above 2K price-wise after the unlock period. And back to the volume conversation, we really haven't seen volume pick up. I mean, it's up a little bit, and maybe it's like a monthly high, but we're not seeing, crazy volumes. This was FTX, but we're not seeing crazy volumes just yet. So I still think people are holding tight. They're staking. They may be nervous here. That's my temperature check of an ETH holder. I really don't think they get stressed until we're 3 digits, right? 3 digits, and then I think people start to get nervous. There is also potentially a hidden bullish divergence here. I'll call it a weak hidden bullish divergence. I don't think we've quite made a lower low just yet. The argument that we've maybe held this diagonal is out the window. We're clearly below that. One thing to consider, though, if we look at one of the Bitcoin ascending triangles in 2015 and 2016, at the very end of this thing, it filled in all the way, right, which is typically not a great sign for this bias actually holding and leading to bullish continuation. It did actually break down first, and it broke down on very little volume. So this could be, again, back to this no free rides mentality. This could be a run-of-the-mill stop run. Somebody saw a way to harvest a bunch of open interest, let's say, and they did that. And maybe we see continuous highs, and maybe ETH breaks 2K. I just don't think the environment's there. We've got people who can't afford groceries. We've got inflation that's out of control. I don't think the signs point to this occurring with ETH necessarily. Okay, if it happens, great. I'll position accordingly once we get close to 2K. But I'm not going to bank on the fact that I'm expecting a bullish breakout. This was for Bitcoin pre-halving, and it was a shorter duration. So just some other things to consider. I think the only way ETH breaks up is if the dollar DXY breaks down, which may happen. But again, I'm not going to hold my breath. Anyway, ETH on low time frames, again, we're seeing divergences here. Somebody tried to push this lower, didn't quite get lower lows, still leans bearish. There's no bullish way you can measure this, right? We broke a 300 plus day pattern. That's never a good thing. We completed or are beginning to complete this head and shoulders. Potentially we retest this diag and then it's curtains, right? That's the next thing to watch for. In the moment though, there is a bull div on this. This multi-shouldered head and shoulder certainly played out, and we spilled to the 2618 as measured by fibs, which you often see for ETH and alts because they're just generally leveraged and people get washed and wiped on liquidations. That's just what we tend to see. If we want to look for long-term supports, if we want to zoom out, this is one thing we can do. We can look at what is the trend since 2019. So far, we're still okay, potentially, right? If we pop on a pitchfork and we're generous with these levels, we're not in trouble yet. If it holds here, again, whatever 10,000 is, eventually, I like. Whatever the midline is at the time. 2,000 to 3,000, I think is easy. I just don't think we have the eyeballs, the flows, the money, any of that stuff to get there at this point in time on the fundamental side, I guess you'd say. But the pitchfork looks okay. The weekly log regression looks kind of iffy. You know, the midline is somewhere around 1,000. Interesting. Even though I don't see us going to 3K based on flows, I almost have a hard time seeing us get to 1,000 unless those stakers get nervous. But that's where this midline is on ETH. We can also look at the 2-year moving average multiplier and just see, okay, is this dollar cost average territory? It still is for ETH. This is the 2-year version, which called the top reasonably well both times in 2018 and 2021. If you prefer to use the 1-year version, this is the 2-year on the 12-hour, so it's effectively the 1 year. Again, it's pretty okay at calling tops, certainly okay at calling buy zones, let's say. And we're entering another potential buy zone based on that. So breaking down from that, I see ascending triangle is a problem. 2,000 plus, still potentially in the cards. And the most bearish path for ETH would be a retest of the diag and breaking down after that, which would basically be a throwback of the head and shoulders. And anytime you see a volume spike, you know we're in for the real deal for the downside or the top side. It just definitely leans bearish as it sits here. Before I talk about the rest of the alts, let me talk about today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with the link in the description of this video. So let's sort the markets on Kraken Pro by USD. I'm looking at volume here. At the end of the day, I know everybody wants me to look at these like low cap gems, quote unquote. But at the end of the day, I don't really care about those. Okay, sorry, I just don't. I don't want to promote them. I don't want to talk about them because do you know how many quote unquote low cap gems over the years people have become a community member for, and those coins just don't exist anymore? I get it. People want to gamble. People want a casino. People want quick gains, bro. But that's just not for me. All right, let's start with Solana. We talked about ETH. You can see Tether USD on Kraken, basically back to $1. So I'll look at the cloud. I'll look at a few other things on these charts. With Solana, below the daily cloud, kind of a mess. Potentially throws back to like 18, if this is real. If this ends up being real and this support holds, I'd expect the market cap index to also break the diag to the top side. Just doesn't look weak enough for me to buy. Doesn't look strong enough for me to buy. And it just, middle of the road ranging, unexciting. I think the next high, 28, I would rather jump in, or anything below 10. I think anything below 10 is fair game. Some stink bids, and you're probably good to go. Ripple, unsurprisingly, retraced the entire huge, amazing, multi-year, oh my god, where we won the case, but it's being appealed, breakout point at 50 cents. And look, it didn't really matter. Okay, there's just, at the end of the day, no utility. You'll see all sorts of fake headlines about Ripple. You'll see all sorts of people pumping fake utility nonsense. Okay, it's just not there, guys. Sorry. Look, I'm not the person to be a cheerleader on that one. Matic breaking down on the daily cloud here. Certainly not something you want to see if you're bullish. It had a cloud retest and broke down again. I don't think this looks bare enough to buy here. Not weak enough to buy here. Would love to see either just an extended divergence, which arguably it has a bullish divergence here now, or just a ton of volume, right? For me to jump in. Anything that's ranging, just to me personally, not super exciting. Doge on the USD pair. This had a shot at breaking out. But again, who's buying this stuff, right? Is it the people on Robinhood? If you've seen those numbers lately, they're down significantly in the users. So I don't know who's buying Doge. Where's the Doge community at? That's why it's hard to look at this stuff, even on just the TA, and think, man, somebody's going to step in here and pick this up. It's at lows. It doesn't look great. Below here for Doge, and it's a penny. If it breaks 5 cents, probably a penny. It doesn't look bad enough to buy. I just don't trust the lows there on Doge because it was so crazy overbought. ADA, kind of the same thing. Certainly don't trust those lows. Expect this to break lower. Definitely not bullish on trend. Volume just kind of sad in the moment. I just don't think there's any hurry to purchase any of this stuff just yet. LTC had a halving event. You wouldn't know it. Made lower lows, made new local lows. Doesn't look exciting to me. Maybe sub 50, 20 to 40. Maybe a good stink bid zone, but doesn't look great on the USD pair. IMO. Link looks okay. Doesn't look like it's headed for mega weakness. Doesn't look like it's headed for strength. I like anything above 850. I'd much rather buy something that's been ranging. This is like the ETH ascending triangle. I'd much rather buy it at 2K than think about it at any other price. Okay. Clearly the line in the sand is 850-ish, has been for a year plus, but doesn't look like it's ready for lows. Doesn't look like it's going to sell off. Looks decently okay here. ARB. Let's take a look at ARB. Not a lot of trading history here on the daily. Let's go to the 4-hour. Not a great read. There's kind of just not enough, trading history on this. I don't even know where you draw a line. Some sort of diag somewhere, but had a bull div sort of playing out. Maybe gets above the 4-hour cloud. I don't have a great read on it. Maybe this is some sort of, head and shoulders inverted thing, kind of echoing the market cap chart again, where it's got this diagonal resistance, but not looking super convincing one way or the other to me. AKT, have no clue what this is. Looks absolutely phenomenal on trend. It has a bear div. It's certainly a bit overbought. Let's look at what this measures to. Another thing you can do if you kind of missed the move and you're thinking, okay, what looks like a decent price? I'm just looking at this thinking, okay, this might have been some sort of cup and handle, whatever. It broke out. Great, went higher. 65, 66 cents was the breakout, and you can see it's well above that level at this point in time. Well above the 2618 of the range. Certainly looks like, to me, a trade that I've missed if I was looking to enter this. But certainly on the bullish side of the cloud, don't see that too often these days for most coins. And that's one issue with these newer coins. They will have some sort of hype cycle early on listing and then just get faded, right? AUD, no clue what this is. Looks bearish and sad. Nothing else really to say about it. Kind of ranging. I'd like it above 70 cents. SHIB, oh boy, let's take a look. Certainly doesn't look bullish. Arguably sort of ranging downward, potentially has this descending triangle quality to it. I think AVAX had a similar setup. So anything above a new local high maybe does okay, which would be whatever that is in dollars. I don't even know. Definitely not anything I want to touch here or really ever, honestly. DOT looks like, much like the market cap index, we had that setup. It wants to break lower. Maybe we get a bull div out of it, a hidden bull div out of it, but nowhere near weak enough for me to touch here or think about touching, and certainly not breaking out of the cloud or the head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders there. So not quite there yet on DOT. I know DOT's got a lot of emissions and issuance and inflation, something else to always be careful about with these alts. Monero, ranging, unexciting. See how it looks on the weekly. Not quite there yet for me. On the weekly, not quite my tempo, as they say. Volume just descending for 2 years now. Not something you want to see generally if you're bullish. Certainly doesn't look as weak as some of these alts, but nothing I want to touch in the moment. Looks like I skipped Atom. Let's take a look at Atom. Atom, interesting because, again, you're looking for some sort of parabolic puke, right? So maybe we get a retest of, you know, these lows at 450, 550, whatever that is. Not quite angry enough for me to jump in yet. Definitely a weak bullish divergence sitting here. But back to that, you know, that watch index chart or NFTs, you know, a lot of these alts have retraced their entire move. Some of them are well on their way to retracing their entire move. So for me, it's just like, look, let them retrace their entire hype cycle of 21 and 22, and then think about where they end up in the pre-2020 range, which would be, you know, $5 or less for Atom. So it's got some room to the downside still. EOS, I wouldn't touch this. I haven't heard anything about EOS in ages. It certainly looks angry. It's not for me. A little bull div on that as well. Stellar looks a lot like Ripple. It'll act like Ripple. They're basically the same thing. No angry comments, please. You know, the move you're waiting for, if you're trading this thing, happened, and now it's just ranging, unexciting. I don't know what the next move for that's going to be. SUI, let's look at this on the 4-hour. New layer 1, newly listed. Looks okay. You know, maybe some of these newer coins, long term, there's that, you know, hype cycle problem, but in the moment, they don't have baggage necessarily of 2022. 4-hour looks reasonably bullish. I personally just tend to avoid the new stuff. I mean, it's down, whatever, 50% from listing. Nothing I'm going to play with, but I can see an argument there on low time frames. Tron has had a decent uptrend on the daily, sort of back in the range. Not anything I want to play with in the moment, but if you do get a TK cross with price above cloud, again, certainly has a decent shot at another move higher. Nothing super exciting though. In the moment, kind of the general trend. Bcash looks, you know, again, looks like Ripple, looks like Stellar, where it had this extended bottoming process. Some event happened. The event is over. People have sold into the highs, and now it's just, you know, unexciting, and reality will set in soon here. Most likely, probably retrace to 150 eventually. Gala, no clue what this is. I think it's some gaming token. Bull div on the low here. Doesn't quite look bearish enough for me to care about. But hey, if you're a Gala maxi, you want this thing back above the cloud, so we're not quite there yet. There's not really anything exciting. I didn't expect there to be. Let's look at AVAX, near maker. I'll look at the rest of these and we'll call it. I don't think there's much to care about. AVAX broke those lows. I think a few videos ago we talked about the descending triangle. No bull div here, made a lower low in price and a lower low in momentum. That's what you expect. Volume picked up a little bit, but where could this reasonably go? Sometimes you can measure it with fibs. Sometimes it doesn't really help you. Maybe 6. You know, if you want to measure the recent range, you'd say 850 to 980, whatever that is, kind of hit that first target. But if this gets really bearish with everything else, 6 certainly a reasonable target there. Doesn't look bullish in any regard. And being sort of at the bottom of the volume table as a layer 1, at least on this day, also not a good sign for an alt. Let's look at near. Bull div on near as well. And hey, there's a decent argument for anything with a bull div at this point. Decent opportunity up. I know I'm sort of like nonchalantly talking about these with some of them being up 5%, 9%, Sui's up 17%, right? Near up 10%. I'm more focused on trend and long term versus like catching a low here. Pepe, sure, why not? Yeah, I mean, guys, look, I'm not going to touch this. I'm not a fan of meme coins. You could argue some sort of divergence there. It's just not for me at the end of the day. Maker kind of held up well when everything was selling off. But again, it looks like the move off of the multi-month pattern happened. It's at a decent spot on the daily Kijun there. I just wouldn't expect a miracle anytime soon. It had its coiled spring moment. The spring has sprung, and now we're post spring for Maker. DYDX, kind of like Link. You know, I like anything that's just held a range for a very, very long time. Doesn't look horrible. I don't hate it. Neutral. Anything above 233, I'd watch. The thing with these, DeFi exchange coins, let's say, if crypto trading takes off and picks up again, eventually, I expect a lot of these to do decently well because generally people like exchange tokens in bullish environments. So definitely something to watch going forward on the DeFi side of things. Are exchange tokens like this, especially anything with easy access in DeFi. Uni, I think we'll call it here after this one, but yeah, nothing too exciting. It had looked initially okay. It was above the cloud, but anytime we're getting these repeated cloud breakouts that go nowhere, I just go up a time frame. We're not going to have enough data to really see anything super important on Uni, but if things do get bullish, I like 24, 25. I just think that's a long, long time away. So look, broadly, as expected, nothing looks great here. Some divergences here and there, nothing quite bearish enough to suggest capitulation. Very much in a middling of most things. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.